Grim Reading Kings. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Patreon. We really hope you enjoy yourselves. Hi, YouTube. Thanks for being here. For the next 3 weeks, we will be entertaining you with the theme Deals with the Devil.
Good evening.
I'm keeping rings.
We are the Grim Reading.
Sure, let's do it.
I keep saying Mike, I do apologise. I've got a metronome. What's that?
For many people, the first name that comes to mind with this theme is Robert Johnson. He wasn't the first name to be connected with this legend, as you will learn, but he seems to be the most well-known. Yet still the image of a lonesome, mysterious man singing haunting melodies is the only thing that people think of, and still many people don't even know him at all. Many voices from Robert's time have passed, but the stories are not lost, even if they are shrouded by myth. Amazingly, Robert Johnson's stepsister is still telling her story. Annie Clara, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so bad at names. Annie Clara Spencer Anderson. She did over an hour-long interview on her 95th birthday that's on YouTube and has written a great book, Brother Robert Growing Up with Robert Johnson, and plans to write a second. So Brother Robert is a great book. I read it to do this story as well as other things,
nice.
And it was really, really good, so I recommend reading that if you have any interest in Robert Johnson. Right, I'm not saying but I just said
Say what you want.
So natural, baby.
Did Robert Johnson sell his soul at the crossroads? A question that has already stood the test of time and will continue to do so. Of course, we won't answer the question, but the legend is fully explored. Other questions about his life can be answered. Who bought him his first guitar, and who first taught him to play music? So here we have the tale of the king of the Delta Blues. Robert Johnson never really should have been born. His mother, Julia Ann Major, was born in 1869 on the 2nd of February. She married Charles Dodds, and together they had 5 children. Harriet, known as Hattie, Lula, Bessie, Carolyn, known as Carrie, or Sister Carrie to Robert, and Charles Leroy Melvin, known as Son. Charles had built the house they lived in, but was forced to flee by a lynch mob. Julia stayed behind in the home Charles had built. She met Noah Johnson, who was working nearby. The relationship didn't last, but Julia gave birth to Robert Johnson on the 8th of May 1911. Charles had remarried Willie Spencer. He had changed his last name. They had 2 children, James and Theodore. Willie passed away, and Theodore was beaten to death in a brutal attack. When Robert was 7, Julia took him to Memphis, working along the way in search of Charles. She needed stability for young Robert, but she couldn't feed them both. Julia's daughter Carrie spotted them and first set eyes on her young brother. Julia left Robert with Charles and his sisters to work from plantation to plantation. Charles taught Robert the fundamentals of music. He was Robert's first guitar teacher. By the time Robert was 9, he had seen his 2 sisters, Hattie and Lula, pass away from tuberculosis. But soon after Hattie's death, Carrie gave birth to her son Lewis, who would become an established guitarist himself and travel round with Robert. Robert could play the guitar with anything. He would be seen using thimbles and even beef bones to slide.
Beef bones?
Beef bones. Robert went by Spencer since he had been brought up in that household. He was Robert Spencer at school. His young friends only knew him by that name. Julia remarried a man named Dusty Willis. When Robert started to rebel after finding out Charles was not his real father, Charles sent him back to live with his mother and Mr. Willis. He found out his father's name was Noah Johnson and started to go by the name Robert Johnson. Charles married his 3rd and final wife, Molly Spencer, and together they had 2 children, Charlene and Annie. Robert fell in love with a girl named Virginia Travis. This changed his entire world. He gave up his music and went to work on the farm, creating a life for both of them. They ran away and got married. They lied about their ages. Robert was 17 and Virginia was 14. They said they were 21 and 18. Things were perfect, especially when Virginia got pregnant. Robert longed for a child of his own. He loved children. Before he had met Virginia, he would play for them. He'd play and sing while they laughed and danced. He loved his younger siblings. His baby sister Annie's first memory of her brother Robert is when they moved house, and he scooped her up in his long, slender arms and carried her up the stairs. When Virginia was 8.5 months pregnant, she travelled alone to give birth with her family. She got to a plantation where her grandmother was. Robert planned to meet her there. He went back to his music, grabbed the guitar his sister Carrie had bought for him, and made enough money playing his music for people that he would be able to pay for a train back with Virginia and baby Johnson. Robert's journey came to a shocking end. He didn't find his wife and child. Instead, they were dead and already buried in the ground. Virginia had lost her life in childbirth when she was 16, while Robert was travelling to her. He never got to say goodbye, and worse, her family blamed the devil's music that Robert played on her death. Robert couldn't go back to being a farmhand. That was the life that he wanted for the three of them. Robert hoboed. He would hop on any train and travel anywhere he could. He always came back to his family, though. Many people felt the same way about blues music, that it was the devil's music, so Robert would play what was asked for. He knew every hymn in the book and every nursery rhyme. He would play and sing with his brother, son, and nephew Lewis. Son and Robert hoboed together and played it on street corners and in juke joints. Son was different to Robert, more outspoken, fond of women and drink. Robert didn't drink when he played to start. He took that seriously. No one touched his guitar either. But he would play for anyone and ask them what they wanted to hear. He could play it all. When Robert was hoboing and looking for his birth father, he came across a club. He heard the music and had to enter. He watched the men on stage, Son House and Willie Brown. He went anywhere they played. When they stopped for a break, Robert would be there playing the guitar, but the reaction he got was not expected. They told him to cut out the noise. He couldn't get to the top where he needed to be. Until finally, Robert left the farm. He left his mother and stepfather. He could never be the farm boy they needed him to be. His mind was always elsewhere. Robert had 2 ministers in the family and listened to their preaching. He knew how to make a deal with the devil. It wasn't much of a secret. He knew you could sell your own soul for the mastery of your instrument. So Robert head out for the crossroads with nothing but a guitar and a soul. Robert tells us the story of the crossroads in his songs. He says himself he got to the crossroads, fell down on his knees. He asked the Lord to have mercy. He waited as the sun went down. The air was warm, but the wind was cold and gave him a shiver. He heard the footsteps come towards him. He knew not to look in his eyes, so with his gaze averted, he lifted his guitar. Silence filled the air until the devil started to tune the guitar in a way Robert had never heard, and he was mesmerised. I'm so sorry. He was mesmerised. I literally felt it and I was like, it's going to happen any second. The devil started to tune the guitar in a way Robert had never heard, and he was mesmerised. When the devil was done, he passed the guitar down to Robert. He lifted his hands to take it, but the devil did not let go. He hesitated and thought to let the devil take the guitar and run, but he couldn't let his newly tuned guitar go unplayed, and so he pulled the guitar from the devil's hands. The footsteps slowly disappeared, and Robert slipped away with nothing but his guitar. Robert spent a long time perfecting his music. He had help from other guitarists like another guitarist, Ike Zimmerman. He taught Robert the best way to focus on your music was to play in a graveyard at midnight. And that was what he did. No disturbances, just his music. He'd play anywhere he could and would constantly be found by the bayou with his brother or nephew. When he was sure he was ready, he went back to the stage he had been booed off. He begged Son House for another chance. He said he had learned a lot and wanted to show them. He walked on stage. People shouted for him to get off, but quietened when Robert turned his back on them. He attached a 7th string to his guitar and started to play. The silence remained. People were stunned by his music, hypnotized by his playing. They praised him and he had finally found what he was looking for, people connecting with his music. He made them happy. Robert was surrounded by bars, partying, and women. He would still hobo, find a new place, show new people his music, and find a new woman to be homely with. He fathered a child with a woman. They fell in love, but her family felt so strongly about the devil's music that he was chased away. His son would only see him twice and not really ever get to speak to him. Robert's own family wouldn't find out about his son until years and years later. Robert would always return to them. He never found his biological father, but Charles taught him what he could, and Robert thought of him as his own father. They watched him go from patchwork overalls to pinstripe suits. Robert always dressed well when he could. He stayed close with his sister, Carrie. Robert would stay with her a lot. He was close with his sisters. The biological tie didn't matter. They were all family. He called his stepsister Anya baby sis, and they were close. He would take her to the railroad and watch the trains go by, playing his guitar or harmonica the whole way. Robert wrote of women in his songs. He fell for many along the way, and they all fell for him. He fell for a woman named Miss B. On the original photograph of Robert in his pinstripe suit, there's a note to Miss B written by him on the back. She left town, and Robert didn't take it that well. He wrote the song Walking Blues all about her. But the title of Womanizer was better suited to his brother Son. They hoboed to Mexico. Son found much happiness with the women there, but Robert seemed more inspired by the hot tamales, about which he wrote my favourite song, They're Red Hot. That's the one I played for you last time. Yeah. I love it. Another huge inspiration for Robert Johnson was Jimmy Rogers. This isn't like the well-known Jimmy Rogers. There was a Jimmy Rogers before that Jimmy Rogers.
Oh, okay.
This one before.
Jimmy Rogers the first.
It's spelled differently. It's I-E and then it's Rogers with a D. His music made Robert want to be a star like him. He felt connected to him, not just through his music, but his story as well. Jimmy Rogers was diagnosed with tuberculosis at the age of 27, having lost his sisters the same way he felt for the man. Rogers would pass at 35, but he left great music for all to hear. Another thing these two had in common was Texas. They moved, loved it. No. they both loved it. And on November 3rd, 1936, Robert would be in San Antonio, Texas, for his first recording session. When at the studio, Robert moved the chair to the corner of the room facing the wall. He sat and did his recording. Rumours spread of why he sat in the corner. Some say he was shy, but that doesn't seem to fit. Most say he didn't want his style to be stolen by any copycats, but some say the explanation is also the reason the recording sounds like two people playing the guitar. The Devil's Hands were playing along with Robert. Robert's first album was Terraplane Blues. He sent word back to his family. The sisters ran to Woolworths and bought themselves that very album. They were very proud of him. Robert only had 2 recording sessions in his life, the second being in Dallas. He would have had many more as talent scouts from all over were searching for him. John Hammond, a record producer, wanted Robert to be a special guest at Carnegie Hall. However, it was too late. Robert's time had run out. The hellhounds had found him. Robert had been seeing a woman. She was beautiful with long flowing hair. She had a sister in town and would tell her husband that she was going to visit her, but instead she would stow away with Robert. The man was a lot older than his wife and knew everybody. He ran the 3 Forks where Robert would play. He was told his wife was seeing Robert, but instead of coming after him and confronting him, he went down a different route. He used passagreen, I think that's what it's called, an odourless poison extracted from mothballs, and put it into a glass of whiskey. Robert was tuning, ready to play. to the crowd when a beautiful woman passed him a glass. He thanked her and took the drink. The second the liquid passed his lips, he knew something was wrong. He climbed on stage, looking at the wooing crowd. He started to play, but his long limbs wouldn't go where he needed them. He paused. His friends went to him. "I don't feel well," Robert kept saying. They tried to give him another drink, but he couldn't take it. They took him to a room upstairs and led him down. He writhed in pain, holding his stomach. For 3 days he lay in that bed, people at his side praying for him. On the third day he went quiet. And finally, on the 16th of August, 1938, Robert took his last breath. Although his friends claimed to be with him when he passed, Robert's own family only got a telegram 2 weeks after his passing. Robert's sister Carrie received the telegram and she was heartbroken. She loved her little brother and he would always come back to her, but not this time. His family travelled to Greenwood where he had passed, but Robert had already been buried. The same fate Robert went through with his wife Virginia. They didn't get to say goodbye. They never even truly knew where he was buried, and now has 3 resting places, and more than likely none of them contained his body at all. They did, however, receive Robert's last words. "Jesus of Nazareth, King of Jerusalem, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he will call me from the grave." His death was never really looked into. On his death certificate, the reason for death reads, "No doctor," meaning no doctor looked him over before or after he died. His death seems unusual now, but it was considered a casual killing back then. Didn't cause much of a fuss, but his family would never be the same again. There's one thing I missed out here. He had an ulcer in his stomach, and the poison reacted with the ulcer, and that caused his death. It wasn't just the poison. If he had only been poisoned, he would have survived.
Okay.
So
Burst the.
He worked a lot, and I think there was a lot going on, and he just the stress and
Yeah. Oh.
They knew he had recorded his Terraplane Blues, as they had the recording. As they had the record, but they didn't know until the 60s that he had recorded more. Charles Spencer passed away not long after Robert. He worked till 2 weeks before his death due to cancer. That wasn't something people really knew about at the time. His wife Molly passed away the next year. Robert's mother passed away in 1949 from a heart attack. She loved all her children to the end, a kind-hearted woman that everyone loved. Robert's sister Bessie was cared for by Carrie until January 6th, 1974, when she passed away. Carrie fought for Robert's memory till the end of her life. Her and Anye would do all they could, and now Anye is still out there spreading the stories of her youth, and we are all very grateful. So by the 60s, many of the people in Robert's life had gone, but his music hadn't. His records had been found and started getting popular, primarily by teenage girls who felt a connection with him. The King of the Delta Blues Singers album was released and people celebrated. His living sisters found this a hard time. People wanted to just make money from the great Robert Johnson, even if they didn't know him in life. They did all they could to preserve Robert's memory, more than anyone else. They kept his photograph safe and anything else they could save. Robert's brother son ended up with his guitar but pawned it away. In 1986, Robert Johnson was one of the first 5 people inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This gave great support to his album, which would later win an Emmy. And so the devil's work was done. 50 years after his death, Robert Johnson became one of the greatest musicians of all time. He just wasn't there to see it.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Damn.
That's from like a lot of different sources, to be honest. Like you have to do a mixture of them because everyone says something different.
Yeah. I forgot about the thing about his first wife dying at childbirth. But wasn't there a conspiracy that she didn't actually die? They just lied to him. And
because
she's actually...
he never said goodbye because her family didn't like him because they thought that he brought the devil to her.
Yeah.
And, so... Could be.
Yeah. Because didn't they lie to him Oh, is that? Am I imagining that? They lied to him and said, "Oh no, she died, and the daughter died." Or was it daughter? I think it was daughter. I don't know. The child died as well, but actually they didn't die. They just wanted to get rid of him.
Just disappeared.
Conspiracy. But
Yeah.
Maybe.
Could be. Yeah.
I might have been on that documentary we watched of him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I don't know. It might have been just
any.
hearsay.
What's that?
Hearsay, is that right?
Rolling off his guitar.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So I
He
know.
actually had quite a few guitars because his sister Carrie bought him, like some, but yeah.
Yeah. But the guitar?
Yeah, like his actual guitar. And 7 strings. He played with 7 strings.
I was just gonna say that he's like.
Yeah.
How do you do that then? Because obviously at the top of the guitar you've only got 6.
I do not know back in the day on an acoustic guitar how we did that. Maybe the devil did it for him.
Yeah, maybe. He's like, oh, here's an attachment. You just need a string. Oh, cheers, mate. I'll go get a string from the shop.
Yeah.
Like,
just like wears it around his neck and it still plays. That's what people like is like fingers were like normally massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could probably stretch like 12 frets.
Really lanky. Really just skinny and lanky.
That is the best. I love how like times have changed. So like blues was the devil's music back then, and now it's like the nicest thing to listen to.
Yeah.
Now metal is the devil's music.
Yeah.
I'd say modern pop is now the devil's music.
Oh yeah, definitely. But
It's all the devil's music. Music is the devil's
Music
music.
is the devil.
But he basically confessed that he went and made a deal with the devil, didn't he?
He did in his music.
Yeah.
The thing was, there's many other things that you can connect to. Like, slaves used to call white people hellhounds because the slave owners were called hellhounds because they would like chase the black people away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another one. Yeah, but yeah, that's what he says in his songs.
Yeah, so Hellhound. Oh, I can't remember the lyric now. I must find this. I'm sorry.
I can't remember.
I cannot. I know it's like Hellhound's. It's like Hellhound's on my tail. Okay. There's a hellhound on my trail. Hellhound on my trail. Hellhound on my trail.
That was that it, yeah.
So I had it right, but I just didn't say it 3 times.
I wonder if that means that you've now made a deal with the devil.
Oh. Wow, at least I'll be able to play guitar well. I don't even care.
Screw it.
I love that thing, like, I'd never heard that version of it before, when it's like the devil, obviously the devil tunes it, but then like goes to give it back and just doesn't let it go. It's like, it's like a last decided, like, you sure?
Yeah.
This is your soul?
Like giving him the
You
chance,
have
like,
to actually, yeah.
He's like, bitch, give me the fucking guitar.
it's mine.
That's, like, I've heard that as well. When he played, it sounded like 2 people were playing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, it does.
Yeah.
It's really weird, but it
spooky.
does.
bonkers, isn't it?
The other thing was the conspiracy on that they sped up his music. But when his family found all of the albums that he'd made, they said no, he played that fast.
Fucking hell.
So, yeah, that is cool.
That is really cool.
Oh, yeah. The devil. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Would you do it? Would you want to sell your soul to the devil?
Probably not. I don't want anything that bad to sell my soul right now. Like, ask
Right
me
now?
again. Ask me again in a week.
What if the devil could, like, so you could eat anything and never put on weight? You could have the best body and nothing would ever take it away.
I enjoy
I enjoy.
going to the gym and like watching my body fluctuate. Obviously, it fluctuates outward more than inward recently, but
Yeah. So Henry Cavill walks in right now. Oh, sorry, wrong house. This is for people who want to.
Henry Cavill was the devil. Conspiracy. No.
Proved otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that as well. When he was Rob Johnson was first, when the band would go for a break, he should jump on stage, nick their guitar, and try and play to the crowd, and they're like,
No.
"Shut up!
Get up! Get up!"
They just thought he was a silly little boy.
They're like, and he went away. I can't remember the main old guy that tutored him. I can't remember his name.
So Ike Zimmerman was the one that tutored him, but Son House was like...
Sunhouse is the one.
He is like the main guy. Have you heard him play?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you need to hear his music. It is amazing.
Yeah.
So remember this when Sunhouse, he said like when he come back and he heard Robert Johnson playing again, he was like, "This makes no sense." He's like, before he went away, he could barely hold the thing. He's like, and then he comes back, he plays better than any man I've ever seen play.
Yeah.
Which is where that comes from. They're like, you can't just get that good that naturally.
Yeah.
Unless you just even if you sat there the entire time.
It's mad how he just came up with that style.
Yeah.
And madness.
Sliding with beef bones and stuff, just like
I know, that's so fucking cool. Nipples and beef bones.
And that's like the thing saying his ulcer in his stomach. The devil probably put that there. If that was the case, it's like...
That was the deal, maybe.
Yeah, it's like, you've had enough time here, you've made your fortune, you're really famous, bye.
Yeah.
But there was another story, when he was... when that all happened, he got poisoned and stuff, he was like howling at the moon when he was outside and stuff.
Yeah, this was one, many people said they didn't believe it, that's why I didn't put it in. But someone claimed to be with him, and they said that he was... on his hands and knees, barking and howling like a dog.
Fuck, like hellhound.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, thank you for that, Tamzin.
I'll talk more about it.
What do you want to... you went quiet, so I was going to wrap up. But...
I know, I'm trying to think of other things, but...
I want to see if there's a picture, a drawing of someone who's done a 7-string guitar like that, because I want to know what that might look like.
Someone might have made it.
They might have done. Robert Johnson.
Yeah, why is it not a common thing now? I don't know anything about guitar.
Cool. Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy. Well, I'm going to obviously do some more video watching after it.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll watch some shit and listen to some music.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, he's got 29 songs, and I think like a lot of them are. He's got like 2 different versions. Like he did them twice.
Oh really?
Yeah. Or 3. He's got 3 takes in one of them.
What?
Oh, that's cool.
It's a new gym playlist already.
It's the same songs over and over again.
Yeah, thank you, Tamzin. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next week for our next story.
About the devil.
About the devil again.
El Diablo.
Bye.